Love is bourgeois decadence. Women are bourgeois decadence. Am I right, boys?
Right?
Let's start out with some majority report.
Ken Griffin, you'll recall, he is the hedge funder who says he's going to move to Florida or take all his stuff from Florida in the wake of the pied-à-terre tax being adopted by the New York State.
We played him yesterday saying he was terrified.
Yes, that it was creepy. That it was creepy that Zoran Mamdani cut a promo for this tax in front of his $238 million second home. And he's acting like the victim. He's basically saying that he was essentially doxxed by the mayor of New York City and that he's considering...
Oh man, the boomer billionaires are learning Gen Z speak, dude. Doxed. Billionaire Satan Hitler 5000 just said, please don't dox me. Guys, let's please not dox Hitler number 355.
Scrapping their $6 billion plan to build a office in Midtown. And, they may go down to Florida, right? Because...
So if I get this right, that he was not doing this because of capitalistic reasons or reasons to make money. He was doing this because he's able to live tax-free in his $250 million apartment. Is that what we're supposed to gather from this? I didn't see the clip.
Which is assessed at a fraction of that.
Yeah. Yes. And also, by the way, there's no proof that those two things are connected, but it's just a coincidence that the chief operating officer of Citadel, after this happened, said that we're not going to build our Midtown office. And I pointed this out yesterday. We did this in same song and dance with frickin' Amazon, and everyone was saying AOC's opposition to all this taxpayer funded money that was going to go to Amazon so they'd build their warehouse or their facilities in New York, that she was killing the business and all business development in New York, and this is what socialists do. And they ended up just building their headquarters here anyway because, like a hedge fund, Citadel, Amazon wants to be in the place where there's the biggest talent pool, and financial services companies, they are going to want people from New York to work there.
Well, also, they should make up their mind. Are these people in the business of making money and therefore can't make any decisions that are based on anything other than...
A more meta-analysis here is the classic capitalists will sell us the rope we will hang them with. The short-term profitability of certain capitalist enterprises does not allow them to plan for long-term anti-socialist agitation. So, on paper, the most strategic thing for billionaires and billionaire-owned corporations to do right now is to try and sabotage New York as much as possible and unironically pull out of it, right? But that would require long-term thinking, something that the market does not allow you to do. Because even if they thought about it, the board on a particular company is going to get fired unless they make a number go up. And if they leave New York, or any other place for that matter, that might have a pro-socialist or even socialist government, is not going to make line go up. So in the long term, this contradiction piles up, though. It piles up, though, and it becomes a short-term viability for you to fight the socialists as well. But that takes a long time. That's when you start buying out the social democrats. That's when you start financing violent capitalists, also known as fascists, and so on. Bullshit. Why do corporations support DEI when it loses money like Disney?
What did he say?
Because they want to sell shows to black people. We don't call it DEI, but let's say a company that makes media like Disney that didn't used to have black people in their shows, all of a sudden having black people in the shows is the profit motive. Okay? Sure, there might be one or two directors there that care about representation, but the bottom line is what a mega corporation such as Disney pursues. So they do it because the chances of your film being watched by a person increases astronomically if it features people that look like you. When you have a lot of people that look a lot of different ways inside of on your show, on your screen, in your game, etc., chances are kind of that it's going to sell more. It gets a little bit more complicated when there are gentlemen like you, Pantic 666, that like would refuse to buy something because it is quote unquote diverse. So then companies adjust to more reactionary sentiments in a country, and then they make an ideological choice, but an ideological choice again based on the profit incentive to intentionally de-diversify their films in order to sell to a more, for example, white supremacist audience, right? So companies believe in nothing but linego upe on steroids, okay? So if they believe that there's enough racists in the country, if they believe they can make more money from racists than they can by pitching their shows, movies, and games to a diverse audience, that's what they're gonna do. So you guys lost the battle from the get-go when it comes to this to an extent. I'm talking to white supremacists because you guys don't want to call nobody white, dude. So like you just keep losing white people because normal people don't really care about another person's ethnicity when they're pursuing a partner. So just long term, you're gonna get outplayed according to your own rules. Nobody forced you to make these rules. You could have been like, oh, this biracial person that slightly lighter skin ours. You could have made a different rule. You could have been like small nose white, big nose black. Some stupid shit like that. Racist is all fucking construct bullshit. So you could have invented a thing. But no, you were like, if there's a drop, you ain't white, motherfucker. What do you expect then? What do you expect then long term? There's somehow going to be more white people? The fuck? They're like, oh my God, but they're breeding us. But no, nobody's. Why don't the black people scream like, oh my God, these biracials, they so fail? Sure, there are reactionary black people that fucking do that. Whatever. You know my point. You set your own rules for failure. So enjoy the fall. But back on the previous conversation, it's not ideology. It's profit motive. Could you say it follows the ideology of who you can sell to the most? I wouldn't even call like wanting to see a person that looks like you in a movie ideological. I think that's more of an instinctual thing, but whatever.
Then maximizing their profits or not?
Yeah.
Like, which is it? Like, if they can afford to be this petty, maybe they have too much money. Let's go. This is Mayor Mamdani's tenants protection press conference.
But do the races create the rules or do the rules create the races? That's a phenomenal fucking question. That is a brilliant question. Both feed into one another. And you would have to go back to the beginning of time, determine whether it's the chicken or the egg when it comes to the first reactionary. The powerful create the rules, which creates the races, which end up becoming the new powerful. But what if they don't? And then the loop is stranger than that. Opposite day. Ha ha.
And he responded to a question about Griffin.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
So Ken Griffin yesterday was speaking about calling your video again. He called it creepy and weird. And he said that, again, that you targeting him has just been very unfair. And he said that he's going to be doubling down his investments in Florida rather than New York City.
Oh, no.
And so I just wanted to get your take. What sort of conversations have you had with him since that video? Have you spoken with him? And what sort of concerns are you having when it
Why would he have to talk to a fucking billionaire just because he voiced a fucking concern?
comes to potential job losses? Are you looking at ways to, I guess, build up? And your economic development commissioner, have you thought about who you're going to appoint yet? Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll first start by saying
keep it up there. I just wish
that
you
I
said
want all New Yorkers
you're a
to succeed.
horrible reporter.
That
You're
includes
a
business
horrible
owner.
reporter. Horrible reporter.
You don't even see dirt.
Horrible reporter. Go ahead. All right, go ahead.
That I want all New Yorkers to succeed. That includes business owners and entrepreneurs who create good paying jobs, who make this city the economic engine, not just of our state, but frankly of our country. And that also includes Ken Griffin, who is a major employer in our city. That does not negate the fact, however, that our tax system is fundamentally broken. It rewards extreme wealth while working people are pushed to the brink. It is a status quo that is unsustainable, that is unjust,
Yes, you brought this as us.
And if we want the city to be one that working people can actually afford to live in, then we need meaningful tax reform that includes the wealthiest New Yorkers paying their fair. No.
That's it. Yeah.
He went to his house and he didn't answer the door.
Yeah, exactly. Come outside.
I also like this other part of the press conference. This is because this was about Mamdani announcing this $31 million fine, this judgment against these bad landlords in the Bronx. And here he has a really righteous rant, I think, about how this is a new day in New York and this administration is going to take these kind of things seriously.
Here. Some of the people say they've seen some of me for decades, and some of me just popped up on the scene. I think for them, they're wondering with this constant turnover of officials how they can trust that what they're saying today is actually going to get done.
Look, I think you've heard it in the man's question from earlier, which is the fact that there have been a number of false dawns in this city when it comes to actually listening to tenants. I do not begrudge any tenant their frustration. If I had to pay out of my pocket for the services that my rent were supposed to be paying for, I too would have to see until I actually believed it. Yeah. And the point, as you've heard from other elected officials here as well as myself, is that this is a new administration. This is an administration that makes very clear that there is no tolerance for impunity. It does not matter how many portfolios you own, how many buildings you have, how many times you have violated the law without any kind of consequence. We are going to hold those landlords accountable. And what I ask tenants here for is the continued voice that they have brought to the table, because part of the reason that we are standing before you is because tenants organized for this moment. And I know that it will, for some tenants, today is a beautiful day. For other tenants, I know it will be the day when the elevator works. For other tenants, it will be the day when they don't see a rat. For other tenants, it will be the day when they don't have to pay out of their pocket for a space heater. And all of that is understandable.
Motherfucker's good, dude.
To me, and what I am proud of standing here alongside other elected officials, is that we're not just announcing a dollar amount. We're talking about a chief restructuring officer, an immediate.
They're so used to bullying people, and it's good someone is finally just like, no, I'm not taking money under the table favors. It's good that somebody can respond to a journalist that is talking about how problematic this will be for a group of people by just saying, I don't serve that group of people, I serve other people. Sometimes they are on the opposite ends of the table. Okay. I serve tenants, not landlords. That's what I was elected for. You of course cannot say fuck landlords, but that's what he's saying. He's like, why do you keep asking me about people who I don't give a shit about? That's not my tribe, dude. It's refreshing for somebody to indirectly, of course, it's politicking, it's New York, it's the States, blah blah blah, but still, you basically say that.
Hiring of a property manager, the freezing of the landlord's accounts, the money that would have otherwise been taken away from tenants being now reinvested back into tenants' lives, so that tenants can actually start to ask questions about their own lives and not about the lives that landlords should have been providing for a long time ago.
Staying on top right now.
Whew. Those landlords had over 1,000 violations as they kept collecting rent. Mamdani pointed out, and you saw Jumaane Williams next to him there.
Are you perfect, Emma?
I'm not. I know. I'm passing so much judgment.
I'm just curious.
Yes, Jumaane Williams also
violations.
instrumental in making this happen. But go ahead.
There's a lot of things that can go wrong in a rental apartment. Just FYI. So.
Yes, I'm aware.
It's true, actually.
I'm aware.
You've experienced, I would say, maybe like a couple hundred.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Floorboards at warp.
Oh God, I'm not in that apartment anymore, thank God. But that was Pinnacle, by the way, which Mamdani went after, I think, fairly early on in the administration. Some of the rent stabilized units that were being neglected. That was one of my units.
Nobody's asking.
Got a lot on their plate.
What if Mamdani's going to do this? maybe these massive companies won't buy up so many buildings and make them available to be rented. Has anybody thought about that? What if they go and take their buildings to Florida? I mean, like, the idea that anybody's taking anything seriously about the I'm going to Florida after Andrew Cuomo is still in this frickin' state. That dude should be gone. Oh yeah, speaking of Florida, good luck finding work down there. It turns out that on top of their Everglades gulag that they've set up that's costing them $1 million a day, and they're trying to negotiate now with the federal government to close it, even though we spoke to an attorney on this program 3 weeks ago who the state maintains that they're not doing this at the request of the federal government, and that it has nothing to do with the federal government. I don't know why you'd need to confer with the federal government to close it. But here's Rick Scott bemoaning the fact that it turns out when you scare all of building, people working for contractors and working on in the service industry or working on farms, when you scare them away or you arrest them and deport them all, it turns out that it starts to hurt your economy. Rick Scott says, unfortunately, this morning's job numbers confirm what I have been sounding the alarm on for months.
Pause it. Sorry, Sam, not to pause you. I think he's been sounding the alarm on for months is Hassan Piker, but go on.
Oh, let me read through and see if that's what he says. And what many families are already feeling, Florida is falling behind on jobs. Thanks, Hassan. We're losing I added that part.
But at what cost?
We're losing tens of thousands of jobs every month. And our unemployment is behind the national average again. Something needs to change. There needs to be a relentless focus on growing our economy, recruiting more job creators, and getting Florida back to work. My understanding, too, is that there's a lot of people leaving Florida, young people, because it turns out they don't want to live, the Handmaid's Tale, just sweatier.
Check the Victory Day parade. It was 1 hour long. There was no, there was no military tech on display. There's a 3-day ceasefire agreement between Ukraine and Russia on this particular day. And it's the classic parade, but only with physical military personnel, blah, blah, blah. They also have a lot of people that have participated in the current war. They're doing the whole thing, medals, blah, 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 something we didn't see in past years, at least not to the same extent. But then I wanna bring your attention to, Vladimir comes out here, gives a speech. But there's an interesting thing that they did here where they did. Let me see this first, where they showed videos. So it's very interesting how you have you have a parade symbolizing Soviet victory over the foreign enemy, and then on that same parade you have people holding pictures next to people holding pictures of Soviets that had died against the Nazis. You have people holding pictures of fellow Russians that have died fighting other Soviet peoples in Ukraine. Let me repeat that. On the parade, you will see grandmothers, grandfathers, and so on and young people holding portraits of sons, fathers, daughters, etc., that had fought together as a unified Soviet Union against the Nazi onslaught. And next to them, you will also have people holding up pictures, people that have died after the Soviet Union fell apart and once it started eating itself from the inside, aka through so-called brother wars. Right? And then on a day of celebration, this is like, I am ironically doing this like fucking like BBC No Comment right now. You get to your own fucking conclusions, right? You have a day celebrating when millions of Russians, Ukrainians, Belarusians, Kazakhs, Uzbeks, and so on fought side by side next to Nazis. And on that day, when we're celebrating that, you get this fucking angle.
И морских рубежей нашей Родины. Личный состав объединенной группировки войск выполняет боевые задачи в зоне специальной военной операции. На полигоне подразделение морской пехоты отрабатывает действия штурмовых групп и захват опорных пунктов в ближней и дальней морских зонах. Российская Федерация обладает полным комплексом средств ядерного сдерживания в Великой Отечественной войны.
Уважаемые товарищи, от лица воинов 150-й гвардейской Идриско-Берлинской ордена Кутузова второй степени мотострелковой дивизии поздравляю вас с великим праздником, Днем Победы!
Широкое применение.
I will leave that with no comment. What the fuck are we doing? The general insanity of this whole situation that will be remembered for centuries to come, where the destruction and dissolution of the Soviet Union led to all the nation states born out of it basically feeding on its proverbial and literal giant carcass and fighting each other, and sometimes even celebrating their frontal battle against their neighbor and former Soviet ally, no, not even ally, former Soviet fellow citizens, on the day when there's also celebrating the unified battle against the Nazis. It is such an absurdly in-your-face contrast of two worlds, two ideas, two perspectives of what was supposed to be happening to this particular part of the world. Do you understand what I mean? That's the lesson I want you to get out of this. Because the alternative to socialist internationalism is just this. Again and again and again and again and again and again. Not only between these Slavs, but between any fucking group on planet Earth. In continuity and in perpetuity. And 2 months after it begins, everybody fucking even forgets why the fuck they're fighting. They're just going over there to shoot some motherfucker because the other motherfucker with that flag fucking shot his cousin or something. Or because they are recruited. Or because that's how they make their bread. Or because whatever. You as socialists need to be able to contextualize your class-conscious pitch not only as a battle against your boss, not only as a battle to ensure you never get financially cucked by your employer, by a class that is de facto in a state of opposition to you, but also, in the of capitalism, we will continuously see a world which misuses cultural, ethnic, national, and other differences to not only inspire, but to also inevitably lead us to war against one another. So to be a socialist is not only to be a revolutionary, but to be a lover of peace. Because we understand that at a systemic core, it is impossible to ensure lasting peace without addressing the core contradiction at its belly. And that's poor kids dying for rich dads. This thing that we're trying to build here, if we manage to build it, echoes through every single category of social organization, including war. War is supposed to be treated by socialists the way a doctor treats disease, as something that cannot be completely rooted out. Disease will exist forever, but something that should be studied again systemically and insured against. What you see as the primary contradiction over time: the lack of efficiency of bourgeois market economics, capitalist markets, leading to almost like 85% of all the ills we have in society. Adolf Hitler was a Nazi, not a fascist. Sometimes I wish I didn't put a noise blocker on me because you could have heard me. go like this. National Socialism is, after all, a form of fascism. Every Nazi is a fascist, just not every fascist is a Nazi. Correct. Correct. Lobotomy is not on 100% here. Love is bourgeois decadence. Women are bourgeois decadence. Am I right, boys?
Right? Because
so if I get this right, that he was not doing this because of capitalistic reasons or reasons to make money. He was doing this because he's able to live tax-free in his $250 million apartment.